Well, welcome back, one and all, to VGMporium. And, what's this? I got a little kitten in here with me. Oh, joy. He's climbing all around the new workspace I've made for myself. You know, I've got my folding table all folded up on top of some cinder blocks, and he's just kind of climbing all around inside the cinder block hole things. So what was I about to say? Oh, yes. Welcome to Masters of VGM's Honorable Mentions. This is definitely going to be much lighter compared to last week's episode, where it was the main focus of the Masters of VGM. This is to showcase the composers that almost made it onto my main list. So what I'm going to do is, play you one of their songs, tell you a little bit about it, about like my experience with it, maybe a little bit about them, and then just move on to the next one. So it's going to be a much shorter episode compared to last week's. So the song that we came in on is called Fight, Alkaiser, from Saga Frontier, composed by Kenji Ito. And one of the reasons why I considered him for one of my Masters of VGM is because I just generally enjoy his music, his composition style. Just something about it just kind of clings inside my head, and every time I go to do kind of like some like off-the-cuff like acapella beatbox thing, sometimes I find myself kind of doing some melodic stuff that's very similar to what he does. And so now, I feel it was kind of appropriate to start this episode with a song from Saga Frontier, seeing as I started the last episode with Saga Frontier 2. So like you'd imagine me, I was a little confused because, I was imagining like there's a Saga Frontier because there's a Saga Frontier 2. Would it be the story leading all the way up to Gustav's birth, maybe? Which is definitely not the case. And actually the two games are very, very much on the different ends of the spectrum as far as story goes. Whereas 2 is very linear and kind of has like set scenarios and story beats. The first one is just open, open-ended, just go wherever you want, do whatever you want. The character has a story, and you'll maybe figure out how to get through that story. We won't tell you, we won't give you any obvious clues. You gotta figure it out. It's just a weird game all around, just like from the way how it plays, the way how it looks, sometimes even the way it sounds. But that kind of gave it this undeniable charm that just kind of pulled me into it because it was very different from everything else I had played before. Now this song actually is from the first scenario that I ever played, which was Red, because he's the coolest looking character. He's got like this spiky blue hair. He's like just really cool looking, and then there starts the story and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're like you become like this superhero, Alkaiser, and this is the theme that plays anytime you like become him. Because I really enjoy it because it's just kind of ridiculous. Doesn't take itself too seriously, and just epic. And come to think of it, I really don't want to. I think this might have been playing when Mama Chuamba saved me from that weird Gadrelf thing. Don't even think about that. But anyway, Kenji Ito, one of my honorable mentions. I would highly recommend you go check out, his earlier stuff on the SNES with, Romancing Saga series, or even his later work on the Romancing Saga Minstrel Song on the PS2, which is actually getting a remaster soon. And I actually kind of enjoyed the music he did for Puzzles and Dragons, which was that weird iOS puzzle game from like 2014 where you get dragons, and depending on what kind of dragon you got, that's how your puzzle played or something. I can't remember. It's been so long. But yeah, go check it out. So now we're going to move on to my next honorable mention, and that is Yoshino Aoki. And I'm going to play the song Navi Customizer from Mega Man Battle Network 6, Cybeast Falzar, and or Cybeast Grega. That was Navi Customizer from Mega Man Battle Network 6, Cybeast Falzar and/or Cybeast Grega, composed by Yoshino Aoki. And I was originally going to play the version from Mega Man Battle Network 3 because that is one of my favorite tracks from that game, but decided to go with this version because it's, still pretty dang cool. I may have mentioned this before, like in one of my earlier episodes, but, I love this game series. It's, even though it's just the idea of it is ridiculous, I don't know. It just came to me at a point in my life where, things were a little tumultuous, like I was moving from one town and county to another. So this game was, pretty big help in that, and, I bought every subsequent game after that, excepting the Star Force trilogy, because, alas, I never got a DS. I really enjoyed the music from the first game, composed by Akari Kaeda, and then the second one came out, and the music was done by Yoshino Aoki, and at first I was a little put off by it because it sounded a little different from the first one, and the styling was different, but then the third one came out, and that solidified that, Yoshino Aoki knew what she was doing, even though I didn't know her name at the time. And then she would come on to do, the subsequent games, I think help out a little with 4, come back on 5, and then majorly do 6. But out of them all, 3 is my favorite. And it's, again, the same thing with Kenji Ito. It's just there's something about her musical compositions just kind of just gets in my ears, and I just really like it. And, I would encounter her music again in Breath of Fire 4 because I was a late PS1 bloomer. So, I didn't get my PS1 until, after 2000. We're probably talking, 2004. So yeah, some of the compositions, and especially the battle music in that game, even though the instrumentation is very different, I could tell there was a lot of similarities between that and the Mega Man Battle Network series. And yeah, so a lot of her earlier career was taken up by Mega Man, a lot of her mid-career was taken up by Mega Man, but one of the most recent things she's done was Final Fantasy 15 alongside Yoko Shimomura, so that's pretty dang cool. You want to know what else is pretty cool? Other than the fact that my kitten has just now climbed on my shoulder, is just lying there like a little sock. Is the next composer I got for you, which is Matt Furniss with his track The Redwoods from the game Puggsy on the Sega Mega Drive. You just listened to the Redwoods from Puggsy, composed by Matt Furniss. And if there's one thing I can say about the man is that he had a mastery over the YM2612 FM sound chip, which is one of 2 sound chips in the Sega Genesis/Mega Drive, which at the time not many other Western composers, if any, could claim. And he was able to do this with a combination of an unnamed tracker created by a program named Sean Hollingworth, which they used on the Atari Mega ST computer, which then was fed through a driver, which also created by Sean, and then, just Matt's knowing how to actually work with the YM2612 sound chip to create all these awesome patches, and we get the music that we're hearing right now. But he, of course, like most European composers, got their start, working on the Commodore 64 and the Amiga, some other microcomputers, and then he would become majorly like a lot of like Sega Genesis and Game Gear and Sega Master System music. So much like another UK video game music composer, you'll know it when you hear Matt's music. Now, a little side note, I mentioned that I work with Deflamask, which is a multi-sound chip tracker, making for chip tunes and stuff like that. But there's a guy that I've gotten it over the last year or so, by the name of Haberchuck. And I gotta say, watching his development, a lot of his leads sound a lot like Matt Furniss's leads as far as how the patches sound. So, yeah, cool little note there. So, hey, Haberchuck, if you're listening to this, buddy, keep going for it. And if you want to hear some really awesome original FM chip music, go check him out. Because, like I said, he's just improved over the years exponentially. It's crazy. But yes, back to Matt. And that would be to say, just go check out all his music. Sega Genesis, Master System, Game Gear, Commodore 64, Amiga, all of it, because it's all just so amazing and awesomely good. I unfortunately don't think I've played any of the games that he made the music for, though. So I don't have any little stories there. But one last thing is that I can there's one track I can suggest you to go check out. It's the Options Password Screen music from Daffy Duck in Hollywood. There's no reason for it to be that awesome, but he just went for it. Matt just overindulging himself and creating this awesome track and using one of the rare examples of arpeggiation in a Sega Mega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive and Sega Genesis music. Crazy. So now we're getting on to my last, but not least, honorable mention, and that is Masafumi Takada with the song Icecube PF from Killer 7. That was Icecube PF from Killer 7, composed by Masafumi Takada. And I am definitely one of those Killer 7 loving oddballs. And the music that Masafumi, alongside Jun Fukuda, created for this game is just like, fits the entire vibe of it. Like, a lot of it's like multi-genre, but there's just this underlying kind of just like, not quite sinister sound, but like kind of like just this uneasiness and eeriness to it all. And a lot of the music he's done previously for like Grasshopper Come Manufacture has this kind of vibe. So, from Silver Case to Flower, Sun, Rain, all the way up to his works on the No More Heroes and Danganronpa series. But I got introduced to him through Killer 7, so yeah, it's one of my favorite soundtracks. It's always on like some, like, when I had MP3 players, it was always on an MP3 player, and currently have it on a USB stick that I have in my car, and I just like to put it on every once in a while. It's actually kind of the theme for all these composers on this list so far is that, just their composition and musical styles just kind of just worm their ways into my brain and just like tickles all those right spots. And now I can't quite remember where this track plays in the game, but I do know that it's part of the quote-unquote missing tracks, which there was an official OST released, and it was missing a lot of like songs that I remember from the game that I kind of liked, and I was like, what is going on? And then, years later, most actually recently, I found the missing tracks, and this is one of them, and it's, which is almost kind of like a callback to the music of Silver Case, more specifically the theme Morishima Tokyo. And the one thing about his music, no matter what the style, like be it really jazzy like this, or ambient, or kind of eerie, or creepy, or action, there's always just kind of like a piano in the background, whether it be kind of prominent, or just like, like this, it's just kind of playing every once in a while. And he's kind of like Masashi Hamauzu in that way, where there's always like a piano in like some of his tracks. So if you haven't played this game and listened to the music of it, I would highly suggest you go do that. You can get it on Steam, the remaster from 2017. But if you don't want to play it, I would still highly recommend you go check out the soundtrack because it's really, really good. But I've actually been kind of a mind to do a whole episode on it. I've got ideas. So there you have it, folks. My honorable mentions for the Masters of VGM. I only kept it to 4 on this list as well because, otherwise I would have been here a lot longer. Probably would have been an hour and a half or even 2 hours of me just kind of going off on all these different composers that I just really enjoy. So these are the ones that just kind of just jumped forward in my mind immediately when I thought of runners-ups, honorable mentions, however you want to say it. And though this is my last entry to the whole event, it's still going to be going on until the end of the month, possibly even a little after, who knows. But, I just want to give a big shout out again to Bedroth and Steen 3D for just putting this whole thing together. Because, this all came up because of, I think the Rhythm and Pixels Discord, there was, talk about, Mount Rushmore of VGM and all this stuff. And then eventually it got boiled down to Masters of VGM. And then, a bunch of people just started kind of getting in on it. And then eventually Bedroth just, decided to move it over to his Discord server, created a separate channel for it. And, yeah. It's over 20 different VGM podcasts just contributing to all this, so it's crazy. So if you want to actually see all the podcasts that are involved with this, go to mastersofvgm.com. There'll be the list of all the podcasts participating, all their episodes. There's actually a chart showing all the composers that are presented in all the episodes together, and then how many times they're mentioned per between throughout all the different episodes and stuff. So yeah, Steen and Bedroth just went all out. And also, the Masters of VGM has a Twitter, so if you want to keep track of all the different mentions and posts and stuff between all the different podcasts, that's also a place to go check it out. And then where you can check me out, VGMporium is also on Twitter, Instagram, all the different podcatchers. I'm also on Facebook under my Rage Cage thing, and then Rage Cage, you can find that on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, also on SoundCloud, Original Musics, chiptunes mostly. And remember, special orders are now open, so if you want to special order a track for me to play, send it to VGMporium@gmail.com, and I will fulfill your request. And with that, I bid you a good day.